What am I saying?
So just kind of introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Like, do I introduce myself about other things I'm doing, or?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And then you're just to the camera.
Okay.
Okay, I'm heading over to visit Shane, our former vice president of COMV. We're kind of in the process of hiring. You know, pricing is going well, so we thought, hey, let's share some insights about what we have done that has helped us to grow as a video production company, what mistakes have we made, and share it with you guys.
Today, I think I'm talking about the business side of COMV, or rather the business side of filmmaking.
We realized that in order for us to be able to pursue our goal of making feature films, that we had to find some way to make money off of that before we got to the feature film part. You know, we didn't want to take studio investments and then always be having to pay them back and give them a large percentage of the production. So our thought process was, let's figure out how to build a business and make that business survive through commercial clients, and then build up enough to be able to do creative projects such as a feature film, and potentially make enough money from that that we don't have to do the commercial side, or keep doing both together to where they fuel each other is kind of the idea. We've been in actual business since 2011, and since then we have made lots of mistakes and made lots of progress, and really have tried to figure out over the years how to make it a survivable business.
Hi, my name's Shane Horlacher. I worked with COMV for about two and a half years or so. As the vice president, my job was mainly focusing on just business. That's what I do. I'm not a filmmaker. I only care about business.
We had success with making good-looking productions. The issue was on the business side of how do we make those profitable.
The time with COMV has been absolutely invaluable to me. And I think not because we found every success that I think we were all striving for, but I just learned a lot, and I think we learned a lot together. And you know, I walked into that situation and I felt like the only person who cared about money, and I was working with 10 artists, and that was the first time I've ever had to like be involved with managing artists, and I definitely didn't know what I was doing at all in that situation. There's some really key things that we learned together, and one of those things was, and I know this is hard for a lot of people, but it's pricing. And so we talked a lot about pricing, and we just really found that we weren't charging enough.
We have found that when we work with clients that we haven't charged enough to, because we think we're trying to, you know, give them a favor or help them out because, you know, they're starting a new business and they don't quite have enough.
Small businesses, we dealt with a lot of startup companies.
We did that a lot when we first started, and we worked with some clients who were very micromanaging, always picky, always wanted revisions, and were never actually satisfied with the product. We found that it ended up being more costly for us, just in, you know, the wear and tear on our personnel, on our crew, you know, the mental anxiety that we all had to go through in dealing with these people. And in the end, that it didn't really make any money because we weren't charging fully what we should have.
You know, I remember just having this moment at the company of just really seeing clearly and feeling like our prices were kind of low. And I realized this because I was surrounded by 10 people who could all do things that I couldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. And they were just super talented, and I knew that they were undervaluing themselves by charging so low. And when we charge higher, our customer, our client, they take us more seriously. And you also get into a new bracket and you're dealing with a new group of people. So charge more. Charge what you're worth. Look at a commercial and say to yourself, you know, I can do that better, and realize that at least $100,000 was paid for that commercial. That sucks. So, you know, make sure you're getting paid what you're worth.
You price for respect. That's really the biggest part about it. Second part is you price for progress. Equipment gets outdated, and we know a lot of companies who have gone under because their prices were too low, and when it came time that their equipment was outdated, they couldn't compete with people anymore, and they didn't have enough money to invest in new equipment, so no one hired them because they were outdated, and they collapsed. So, okay, when it comes to pricing, there are three things. Track all hours, know all costs, and then know your percentages of how those costs divide out. Tracking all hours is one of those things that has made the biggest difference for us as a company. The biggest part is when you're doing creative work, we found that you work on something and it's like, oh my gosh, that took forever, that must have been 9 hours. And you look at it by tracking and you realize, oh, it was actually 6 hours. Or sometimes the opposite. Since about 2014, we have tracked all the hours for every single project meticulously. Why that's so important for figuring out your pricing is because then it has allowed us to take that and figure out on average how long does it take for editing typically, how long does it take for color correction on a typical project. Know all costs. So we were having enough money to pay people and to buy props and set pieces, but the other small things that we didn't quite take into consideration were what ended up hurting us a lot. Okay, labor. We figure out what our hourly rate is, and that's kind of a given for how many people are on set at a time. That's what the labor cost is. Equipment. We look it up on a rental store and say, how much would it have cost if we rented this equipment for this time period? And that's our equipment cost. Hard disks or hard drives, that is super important. We just filled up 32 terabytes of data, and we don't have a savings for buying more hard drives. And that's because we never were really charging people for the amount of space that they take up in our hard drives. So that's something we take into consideration. Repairs, we keep track of how much we have to put into repairs or buying new items that break and things like that. Management fees, for us, we have people who aren't on set but are part of the team to make it run, such as accountants, such as sometimes like producers. Office fees are things that, you know, electricity, internet, paper, staples, gaff tape, like things like that we kind of clump all those things into our office expenses because those are things that are reoccurring and we have to make sure that we have money for them to keep things moving forward. Let's go into percentages. Okay, 40% is expenses. 40% of what you charge the client is going to go towards expenses. That's what we just talked about knowing all your costs. Those were the expenses. 30% is tax and 30% is your earnings. Okay, so this is our 40% section. This is our expenses section. So we talked about the labor, equipment, hard drives, repair, management, and office. We looked up what the average rate is for, let's say, an editor or someone on set here in our local area. And we pay our employees just a little bit above that because we love our employees. And we'll get to that next part about building the team and crew. So we pay them $30 an hour. Equipment, we took what is our average rental amount, what is the average equipment that we have on set, and how much would that cost to rent. And then we divided that cost by the average number of hours that we are on set. That's where those hours are super important to track. Adding this up, our expenses are $54.11. That is how much is our 40%. So to figure this out now, so we have the $54.11. We're going to divide that by 0.4, which is the 40%. Dividing it by that gives us what is our 100% cost. Our 100% costs, we round to $135. So we know that according to us as a production company with the equipment and everything that we use, $135 per hour is what we need to be charging to cover all of those expenses and stuff and have our other 30% for tax and 30% for earnings.
Okay, we gotta talk about something right now. So I think This is just key, and this is so important. And not everybody knows how to deal with people. There's no getting around that. Something that's so important are your client relations. Establishing just clear expectations and what your process looks like. Because here's the thing is all these people, all these clients out there, most of them, they were like me, and they're walking into a situation, they have no idea what to expect. They don't know why it costs $20,000 to do this, or whatever your pricing is. They don't get it. They don't understand it. They don't understand the equipment, they don't understand the process. And so part of that is figuring out a message that you can share with them, or a conversation that you can have with them that establishes some really clear expectations, and letting them know, like, this is part of our creative process. This is what we do. We just had some moments where we did not set clear expectations, and in a way, we were responsible for developing our own worst client because of things that either we just didn't foresee. It was just like our first time. We were just like learning, it happens. But when you have clear expectations, when you have contracts, when you are communicating really well with a client, you can avoid so much. I will say one thing, having the same point of contact for them, making sure they're talking to the same person, make sure that person's really good at follow-up, and being able to just kind of read people and kind of see what they need. Some people, some clients, especially the higher paying ones, they tend to be a lot more hands off, and they just, they're like, okay, cool, like, get back to me when you're done. You know what I mean? That's kind of where they want to talk. Some of the lower paying clients, they just want these like updates step by step, which is it can be so destructive to your team. So make sure whoever's dealing with your clients is okay with that. So if you're looking for the best client, I don't know what to tell you. There's a few things that, if you're really good with intuition, great. But if you're not as comfortable with that, and I feel like there's always things you can't see, even when people seem right and seem good, and they say all the right things, I think you can still get caught with your pants down. But we kind of take it back to pricing, and just, I think something we found is that when you're valuing your services at the right price point, you weed out a lot of the uncomfortable clients, a lot of the penny pinching, stressed out, worried, and like, bless their hearts, but like they're too stressed out for you. If you can just value yourself enough and have faith in your own ability to make something awesome and start charging the right amount, you'll weed out a ton of the trash.
Cool. So on to the next part, which is the right crew. Crew is the most important of these three items. Without a crew, you're nothing. And there's three things that we have found that have helped us find good crew members. We'll find a way to observe them when they're not in an interview. I hate resumes. I think resumes are really stupid, and I've never hired someone off a resume. For me, as a president of the company and employer, I always try to figure out, what do these people really like without me interviewing them? So what do they talk about on their Facebook page? If everything on their Facebook page was, oh, look at what this director said, or, oh my gosh, this new trailer's coming out, or, oh, a picture of them on set doing camera stuff, already I'm able to tell this person probably has a lot more passion about film production versus this other person thinks it would be a good idea or it would be cool to work on a film set, but they don't really want to put the effort in. Next, open-minded. We've only hired one person who actually studied at a film school, and that's because most everybody else who we've talked to that went to a film school, most of the time they can't give a suggestion. They're just like, that's not the way I learned it. That's not right. And so it gets weird. So we look for people who are ever learners. Next part is passion, and I put right here, not for money. That's kind of this next part. If you only want to work on a film project because you're getting paid buku bucks for it, then I don't really want to work with you because your passion isn't there. Now, that doesn't mean that I want you to always be wanting to work on free stuff, because otherwise I'm not going to hire you. No, it's if you're excited about the opportunity to be like, hey, I want to work on a set. This would be so much fun. Oh, we can't pay you. No, that's okay if we can't pay me. I just think it would be a great opportunity. That type of person I would love and will love to give money to, because they're passionate about it without money. Money is not a motivator. So anyways, we found that if we go through this thing of stalking them and seeing who they really are outside of a resume, and if they're open-minded, figuring out what their strengths are and implementing them so that they can grow in that path along with everybody else, and if they're just passionate, independent of money, those are great people, and that's how we've built all of our team members. That's it. So hopefully that helps in terms of knowing the business behind show business. Those are the three things that we have found have made the biggest difference. Again, the crew being the biggest one. I love our crew. When it comes to paid projects, we make sure that our crew is paid before anything else, because we want them to feel appreciated for the efforts that they put in. And because there's a lot of projects that they work on, and a lot of them have worked for free for a long time as we were growing the business, and I want them to know that we appreciate them.
Find great people that you enjoy working with. Not everyone's gonna be easy to work with, but like just people that you know are good, like good people, and you're gonna be successful. And even if you don't find all the success in the world, like you're at least gonna be happy. So that's a plus, right?